Hello everyone, this is Melody with designbymelody.com. Today I'm going to share a video of a card I made using the mini album die I got from by Quick Cuts a couple weeks ago at Archivers. Here I'm just showing you that I'm using the plates as well as the 7 sheets of cardstock. I believe they're 65 pound. I'm just using them as a sham because the die is so thin. You can see it here. I've cut my cardstock to fit right inside the edges of the album die, and I'm lining the end all the way up with the top. I'm basically just going to cut the tab portion, and you will see here how I do this. I leave the die hanging off the end so that it only die cuts the top portion, and then I'll trim the sides of my card here in a moment. Again, I've got everything lined up here to where it just is going to cut the first 2 inches or so of this die. I'm not going to run it all the way through. I did do this once before as a trial, and it really creases the back of the paper. Even though it doesn't cut it, it creases it. So that's why I'm only running it about 2 inches through. Like I said, I'm trimming off the edges just to make sure I have a very clean and crisply cut card. And it ends up being about 8 1/4 to 8 1/2 inches wide, with one tab cut on the end, which will be the front of the card. Excuse me, and about let's see, about 3 1/2 to 4 inches tall, I believe. I do have the measurements in the blog post where you can see exactly what sizes I've cut it to. I'm scoring it about 4 1/4, and then I'm going to trim off probably 1/8 of an inch or so off the side. I want the tab to line up exactly with the side of the card. Right now, as you can see, it does not line up exactly, so I'm going to trim off about 1/8 of an inch. Just using my Tim Holtz ruler here, which is a fantastic ruler. If you don't have it, you need to get it. I held out for a really long time, and I really should have bought it much sooner. It's great to use when you're using a utility knife or a craft knife. Again, these measurements will be listed in the blog post. I'm going to use some washi tape here along the side, and I am going to wrap it around the back completely so you never see the ends of the washi tape. It gives it more of a finished look. And this is just so that the tab will stand out a lot more on the front of the card instead of kind of blending in with the back side of the card. This washi tape is from Feckled Fawn. It was in a $5 grab bag I received. Now I'm just going to work on the front of the card. These are stamps from the Stamps of Life by Stephanie Bernard, and I will put these again in the blog post. And this stamp set is from Canine Memories. It's the only stamp set I went through. Every single stamp set I own is the only stamp set I have that has a present or a gift box. I'm just stamping the gift a few times on different cardstock. This cardstock is all from my scrap bin. Not using up very many scraps here, but I did just decide to go ahead and grab that out of there instead of cutting into some whole cardstock. I'm just going to trim these out, and I'm going to trim a slight border around the outside of the present, and I'm cutting off the ribbon, and you'll see I'll stamp it again here in a moment on the actual front of the card. So the ribbon will be stamped on the white on the white piece that's on the front of the card. But the box itself will be in the colored cardstock. You can see I'm just showing you how I'm trimming it out. Doing some very basic, simple cutting with scissors here. Try not to get too complex, at least not on camera, because that's when I seem to mess it up. So I'm just starting with 4 presents. I do go back here in a moment and do another one. I'm going to stamp the little pickup truck here using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I would highly suggest, this is the first time I've ever stamped this truck, so I highly suggest testing it out on another piece of paper. And you will also see, even it came out decently well, but the tires just weren't as solid as I wanted them to be. So I will go back and remedy that here in a moment. To stamp this happy birthday sentiment, I'm actually going to use some Rose Red by Stamp It Up. It gives it a really nice pop of color right here on the front, on the truck. There we go. And the size of these presents is almost perfect to where 3 presents line up side by side. I will overlap them slightly so that they do stack nicely on the back. So first I'm actually gluing down the 3 presents on the base part of it. Then I'm going to go in and stamp the ribbon, and then I'll add another layer of present boxes. And because I trimmed it to where there was a little bit of a border around, I can see exactly where I need to stamp the ribbon. And I'm just using this piece of scrap paper here where I cut the tab off the card, excuse me, to cover up and protect the presents I already cut out. You can just as easily stamp these 3 presents on your card base first and then glue the colored pieces on. That actually probably would be easier, but I didn't think about it till after I had already glued on the pieces. I'm going to stamp one more present here so I can fill the truck up. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stamp the ribbon on with the black ink. I'm going to use this tape, this foam tape, to kind of give a little bit more dimension to these top 2 presents. And this time I'm actually stamping it before I put the presents on. Sorry you cannot see it. But there you can see where I've just stamped basically the ribbon. And then I'm going to line the presents up below those. And even though the bottom row of ribbon are covered up, I still would suggest you stamp them just in case they peek out like the last blue one does. So that's how my card base is coming together. I'm going to use a little bit more washi tape here, and I'm just going to rip it. And I'm making a little bit of a road. I considered stamping a road or coloring in a road, but I thought having the torn washi will give it a little bit more of a jagged road look, and it also ties it in to the rest of the card base where that gray piece of washi is wrapped around the base. And I'm just overlapping the tires here, and you'll see why. I'm going to add some buttons on top right there. Just using glue dots to add these buttons. I'm not going to thread the buttons. You could thread the buttons if you'd like. But since this is for a 3-year-old boy, I figured threading the buttons wasn't necessary. And this red actually matches the rose red Stamp It Up ink very nicely. I've just put on my title here, Calen Turns 3, using these Jelly Bean Soup Alpha Beans. And that's how it's going to go. I've stamped Room Vroom on the side, and that's using that same stamp set by Stephanie Bernard. I'm just going to put some white on the center of the card. That way I have a place to write my message. And I'm using these basic colored pencils. These are from my son's art box. There is nothing special about these colored pencils at all. I'm just coloring in here, coloring the bumper in this black. I'm going to color the lights yellow. And I've sped this up so I don't have to do quite so much watching me color since there's no special technique to this. Just adding a little bit of blue to the window so it's not such stark white. Just a little bit of color, not very much color at all. You could very easily use a water brush pen with some ink or watercolor pencils. This was not anything complex at all. I'm just coloring the truck a pale green to give it a little bit of color. Just adding a little bit of more color here. I'm going to go in and take the yellow and color the headlight. You also could stamp this on a piece of colored cardstock and cut it out as well. There we go. You can see my coloring. Nothing fancy at all. just enough to give it a little bit of color here. Right now I'm just going to attach this to the front of my card. Oops, sorry, the light went weird there. Alright, so there's my card, and I'm going to add the white pieces on the inside of the card so I can actually put my message. I'm just going to add a sticker here that says 3 years, I believe is what it says. Camera's having a difficult time focusing on the white as I'm moving around so much. Yep, I'm just going to put 3 years old here, right on the inside. He'll be 3 in December. So I'm just preparing for his birthday a little bit. I was considering putting one of these other stickers that says happy or birthday or wish or gifts or something, but I'm just going to end up sticking with the 3 years. Kind of playing around with the idea of putting that happy on there as well. It's kind of interesting. I get down to the end and I can't make up my mind on the one sticker to put on the inside. Alright, so here's the finished card. Calen turns 3, has happy birthday, a truck full of presents, and that's it. Alright, well thank you for joining me today. If you want more information, please visit my blog at www.designmanmelody.com. Alright, thanks. Bye.